life, those things have to be balanced. They have to be brought together in a balance. And then as I talked the first time about them, I was amazed because I kept thinking, well, they are all one thing. They are all the gifts of the Spirit. The Spirit either gives it or it doesn't, and you can either receive it or you cannot. You see, that's the thing. That's the character of a gift: is that it can be received or it cannot be received, and it cannot be bought and it cannot be earned. It is given, and these things are given, and if we can receive them. And I kept thinking, well, nobody can receive any of them at the present time. I mean, people have a terrible time receiving the gift of erotic love and delight, or receiving the gift of compassionate love, or receiving the gift of temperance, or of hope, or of faith. These things are, people can't receive them literally, and I'm very conscious about hope, which is one of the most recent thing. But I was old enough in the 30s to recognize that everybody had hope. Everybody had a solution to everybody's problems. I mean, it was no question but what they had a solution. And whole bunches of them had the solution of Marxism. Bunches of them had the solution of Freudianism. Bunches of them there were solutions on every hand, and you could joyously go in and build great projects, because if the poor were living in handsome and solid architecture instead of run-down things, they would be handsome and solid too. And it turned out not to be true, and as we all know. So we see them blowing up, and that's extraordinary thing on television, blowing up one of the great projects in I think it was St. Louis, anyway, one of the famous ones. But I think all of them now have been blown up or torn down or something, because people no longer have hope that architecture is going to make you a solid citizen or a happy or anything. We just don't have that hope. Much less the communism and socialism. And when I was in college, in my little funny college in Virginia, darling young ladies, the college voted 99% for Norman Thomas, and in a straw vote. There was, however, one vote for Browder, the communist. Now, you see, those people were full of hope. This came absolutely from no slightest reference to their own experience of any kind at all. And yet they thought, the socialist world will be, everything will be as happy as larks, and it was just all be perfectly marvelous. And you see, they really did believe that, and they thought if they voted, I voted for Norman Thomas until he died, I think. I don't get quite that long. But everybody that I knew did. There was nobody that could hold that Norman Thomas was going to save us all, because he had the right answers and we're right. And that whole thing. Then other people had all kinds of little weird ones, a number of strange things. And you begin to have a lot of importation of other ideas, India and so on. It was a time of great hope instead of great despair. And people were always saying that there was going to be a huge revolution, and we were all going to be washed away in the revolution. But of course, it wasn't true, because the people had hope. They had solutions, and they knew that this was going to work. And I have not heard one word of hope about any of the things that are written about the conditions in the inner city, the conditions in education. Not one word of hope. Nobody saying, well, I have a solution, let's do it this way. Really, they don't even say that. So this is that is a gift. You either have it or you don't have it. And it's delicate. They're all delicate, and they're all related. One really can't. Compassionate love cannot exist without some temperance. It cannot exist in its true form. Eros cannot exist except under those conditions. Hope cannot exist unless love exists, and unless the strength of fortitude exists. And faith cannot exist unless love and temperance. They just go around and around, because each one is, they cannot be separate. It is the gift, and that's it. And the gift has these parts, but they're all closely related. And then when you think of the two up there, that's the gentleness. Now, how many people can receive the gift of gentleness and not be afraid that it is weakness? It's just almost impossible. And then the hating on the left is even more difficult to define, because we have no word for it. So I say that it is the opposite of greed, but we don't have any word for the opposite of greed. And it is a kind of sufficiency, a sense of sufficiency. That I don't need more, and what she has is a stick to get through the world, and a basket of lunch and a dole, and that's it. That's a kind of minimum requirement, but it's a working requirement. It does all right. So whatever it is, humility, sufficiency, whatever. It is very hard for people to imagine. Very, very hard. And gentleness is really, people have the nerve to say that it doesn't exist, that it's just cowardice. So we're in a bad state to receive the gifts that can be given. Nothing we can do if we don't. I used the idea of faith, which is one of the great virtues, the figure of Mary Magdalene, in part because her life is more interesting and more real than many other saints. And I have a very, I think, unkind reaction to people who want to give up their wealth and they don't have any. I don't. That seems too easy, you know. Say, well, I wouldn't drive a Mercedes. I know you would. I already know that. And I don't have really a lot of sympathy for people, for very young people who, in a sense, presume to be saints. I don't think they have the right, and I just don't think they have. There's no use to repudiate the world if you don't know anything about it. That's a perfectly pointless activity. Or to repudiate wealth if you never had any, or it's just an idiotic thing to imagine that this is any kind of spiritual act that's so far as from it. So I like my saints more seasoned, unfortunately. Most of the Christian saints are that. I mean, mostly they had a frivolous youth, like St. Francis, whooping around the town in lovely clothes, and then he thought, oh dear, that's not it. And he took all of his clothes off, which scandalized his father and everybody else in the town, and gave them back to his father and went away in a robe. But that's very different from a 10-year-old saying, I want to be a monk. Anyway, Magdalene fulfills my interest in that because she was extremely wealthy and very beautiful and very much charming and delightful person, apparently, and she scandalized people. She was the person that was closest to Christ in any writing about him from the early period, and called it beloved. And then I liked the fact that she was at a wonderful party, and all of her friends, musicians, and they went walking along the street, and she looked through a window and saw nothing but the head of Christ talking to someone, and she was immediately converted, gave up that life totally, never even got near him till later. But she became then his absolute devotee and never left his side, and was his dearest friend, and described as that, his dearest friend. So I think she qualifies for faith. And then she spent the last of her life in France and in penitence. This is the only one that has a mixed image, and it's mixed because I have one of the gifts of the Spirit, according to Galatians, is the gift of self-discipline. And I have, over the years, I've become extremely distrustful of the word self-discipline. I don't think that it's possible for us to discipline ourselves. The only thing that disciplines us is our desire. And they can discipline us in a way that nothing else can, nothing. And we undergo extraordinary and severe discipline because of desire, because we want whatever it is that we want. And it's perfectly marvelously demonstrated by the passion that people in the present time feel that they want to be young and thin. And a great industry has arisen in which people simply torture themselves and do without food, to go through things which the saints would have repudiated. Absolutely. That's altogether too much. But not too much for a minute. And restlessly they go from diet to diet. And I have great joy of thinking of how all of the spas and things are going to be interpreted in the year 5000. If they have pictures, they will think this is some mysterious torture device that people put out, and what's behind it all. And then when they find out that this was to be viewed by other people, they have those windows where you can see people treadmilling, doing these things which have been ancient punishments for years. The horses had to do it. and it was only old, poor, sad horses that ever did it. No sprightly young horse, and I don't think he got any younger. He may have gotten a good deal thinner, but not much younger doing it. But it'll be utterly mystifying to people if they don't just know that one little thing, that this was to achieve. By that time, you see, everybody's going to be starving, so they'll all be skinny as all get out. But anyway, it will be mystifying, and it will be deeply mystifying, and it will be thought of as some kind of religious or something of that nature. And yet, exactly the same thing, of course, happens with anybody who desires something. And the best way is to think of a child that wants to play the piano, and is perfectly willing to practice for 10 hours. And you could not make him do that if you didn't desire to do it. There'd be nothing that could make him. You couldn't pay him or diminish him. But his own desire will carry him beyond the worst discipline that you could impose, because it fuels what he does. It makes it possible. So I have this is sort of the figure of the self, really. I think the self has male and female aspect, and the body is like some great animal, and it's our vehicle. It's the only way we get through the world is in our bodies, and I And it's very hard to imagine ourselves separate, actually, though we feel separate, but still. I use the bear because the bear is one of the sacred animals, and it also has this mysterious thing that when people shot bears, first did or later or at any time, and skinned them, that many people couldn't eat them. They look so much like human beings. They're really built the way we are. So, and they stand on their hind feet an awful lot anyway. So, and they're omnivorous. And many years ago, I read a perfectly marvelous and delightful essay or talk by a man who was Italian, and who was pushing the idea that we're not descended from monkeys but from bears. And I love this so. It seems so much more natural. You know, we don't have the agility and the swiftness of monkeys, and we're not. We chatter a lot, but not that much. You know, and they have a kind of aerobic quality that bears don't have, and most of us don't have. And the way they walk around, you know, the whole thing. And in the Middle Ages, people thought that the bear mother, was when she gave birth to little lumps of nothing, and she had to make them into bears before she let them out. And then, and it's a wonderful and fascinating idea. She had to literally lick them into shape, you see, so she could present them as bears, not as. So I have a great fondness for bears. I know nothing beyond the simple and obvious, and I've never known a real bear, really, at all. And then stopped having those bears that perform, you know, I'm old enough to have seen them riding bicycles. But this doesn't do it a lot. It's our acquaintance. So anyway, that it is the vehicle that we've got, and that's all we've got. We have to ourselves have to ride around on that. But this bear, as you can see, is being constrained only by passion flower vines, not by any bit and whip. So is driven by passion. We drive him by our passion. There's the little dogs there, or the little funny yappy things about our body, those funny things that it does, like give us some kind of, well, I always like to think of nail biting as one of the yapping dogs, because it's really such a pointless activity. And if you don't bite your nails or ever have, it is absolutely inconceivable. Why you should do it? You can't pretend, I think, to bite your nails. You don't know how. It's a real technique, I think, but I never did it. But it is something that is very it's a naughty aspect, a naughty, yappy aspect of the body that it would think of doing such a thing. And so there the dogs take care of all of that, all of the foolishness of the body, frivolity and idiocy of the body, which as you grow older, you become more and more astounded by. But that's true. So, the two figures at the back are really the idea of the dark and unconscious world that we float on the top of, the dragon being a symbol of it. And that's the death of the dragon on the left and the resurrection of the dragon on the right, because I think these dark aspects of ourselves have to be killed and restored. Their loss is terrible if it's total, and it's terrible if their presence is in complete command. So they have to be brought under control, but rise again. So these, I think, I hope that people in seeing these will be able to accept them. I mean, I hope that people can, by seeing them, that they will be able to recognize that these are a possible aspect of their own selves and of their lives, and that this will have some strengthening quality, because we need the strength to receive abuse, and we have to get that strength from somewhere. And I think that hearing great music gives us some of that strength. And I know that great paintings like Matthias Grunewald give us that strength to receive the gift. The strength that it takes to receive the gift, which has enormous impact on us, and which can actually destroy us. People, we all know people who are destroyed by hope. They never bring any hope into reality, and people who are destroyed by eros, and then people who long for eros and cannot receive it, And it's true for all of them. They are things which we terribly need, terribly want. Sometimes can't take. So I hope they'll make them, in a sense, more familiar. I have since I last talked to you, I have a marvelous indication of what art can do and be, and what it doesn't need to do or be, even though it's a graven image, and even though it's an image that is potentially a powerful one, it can be used very differently. And that's because I got a catalog, God knows from where, I have no idea. But it advertised what you could buy, and that was life-size figures cut in cardboard that will stand up of John Wayne, Marilyn Monroe, Harrison Ford. And here they are, you see. Now, here, I know that those people don't pray to those things. I know that they don't do that. I know it absolutely, though I don't know anyone who's ever bought one. I don't know anything. I didn't know they existed. And it's an extraordinary desire, you see. But what it is companionship. I'm sure. I mean, what else? Are all these people just extravagantly lonely? These things aren't, they're not dirt cheap, but they're not expensive. They're like $20, $24. It's relatively cheap for friends. You know? Don't eat, don't borrow your books or anything. They sit around, and I don't know whether they actually talk. They're a little bit, like any icon, they're a little bit unapproachable. I mean, for instance, they have 6 guns, you know. In the John Wayne thing, they may actually have guns on you. But in all of them, it's a wonderful, it's a capture only of a moment, you see. They're not iconic in the sense, so that the Marilyn Monroe is a Marilyn Monroe skirt blew up over the thing, and she's thoroughly charming, delightful, and she is, I think, only about 5'8" tall, and other people, except Harrison Ford is 6'1" in his cardboard image, and I think he's 5'1" in the real life. So maybe he's the one that collects them. Talk about a great escape from yourself. You get to yourself, but you're a much grander self. Anyway, it's nice that it clears up for me the real function of the image is kind of, it's just like I talk to my dog. I mean, you have a feeling that they have a little more comprehension or can grasp something a little more complex than, like, should I or shouldn't I do this? Or you could talk it over with an image of the saint or of the Virgin or whatever, without worshiping that sequence. No more than you would talk over Harrison Ford the joys of flying an airplane or whatever he is able to tell you about. So it's a great thing. I'm just so delighted. I'm really just tempted to buy one. Not that tempted.
Did they have guarantees?
What?
Did they have guarantees?
Yes. Anyway, it does a great deal. I think if you understand that exists, that it does a great deal to understand the use of statues, of images, the kind of friendliness, or the sense of something else occupying space right around your space. It is very and it's just a great. And that it have this wonderful secular thing that absolutely charms me. I'm so pleased to learn about it. So, well, I think I've probably driven you mad with anxiety of sitting down. So we have to go and maybe have some more coffee or whatever. So thank you very much.
Thank you.